Right, all you listeners of the madness and anyone lucky enough to catch this show in their AM/FM dials, welcome to yet another unpredictable, unplanned, unseasoned, and now under 2 rounds away from a 12-round knockout edition of Under the Radar. I am your host for the East Coast, DJ Smokey, and seeing the fact that we're kicking off your work week with just a little dose of madness to go along with the madness you've already got in the tank, we might as well waste no time and explain to you guys what's going to happen on this very special Monday Madness edition of Under the Radar. Because we kick things off with what happened during this weekend's pay-per-view, only known as Saturday night's main event from deep in the heart of Texas. Next up on the plate, we go ahead and take out our left-handed scissors to cut out some very interesting newspaper clippings from this past weekend and beyond for another edition of yesterday's news. Then we go from the newspaper clipping straight directly into the Twitterverse to find some very interesting screenshots and whatnots from there and beyond for another edition of the 4 Squared Delight. And oh, speaking of the beyond, and with Carl and the Maestro currently adjusting the tie on our Rod Sterling suits, we take a special Monday trip directly to the Indy Zone. And if you're wondering at home, it's another golden tie. I don't know who gave it to us, but we appreciate it. It looks good. It looks good. Then, speaking of things that looks good, but I got a feeling it's gonna turn bad within a second, we find out which one of you crazy stunners out there is gonna spend the end of this month in an infirmary for another edition of the wild world of stunts. But according to Carl and the Maestro, some of them might jump for joy and then just crash and burn along the way. Oh, mine was better this week. Then finally, last but not least, and hopefully before those infomercials flicker on and off your television sets, we wrap up this show yet another edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Week. And I guess with that said, I might as well tell Carl and the Maestro to kick up the beats, crank out the tunes, and for any of you listening at home, ease back those recliners, cause it's time for us to get ready to fly low as we go under the radar. Let's get this madness started, folks. Right, all you listeners of the madness, welcome back to Under the Radar. Now, if you're wondering at home why in the world Under the Radar wasn't before Music Village this past week, well, we got a little antsy and decided that we were going to bring the madness to you next week with another little surprise before the end of this month. And at the same time, also, we wanted to give as much space as possible to the anniversary of not only Music Village Radio, but for Music Village as a whole. So yeah, and apparently according to Carl and the Maestro, they were out of town that week, so the madness will have to wait until next week. Understandable. But besides putting a delay on your madness, folks, I think it's time for us to go ahead and find out what happened during this weekend's pay-per-view or NBC broadcast, according to Carl and the Maestro, only known as Saturday night's main event from Houston or San Antonio, where the stars at night shine big and bright, bum 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 bum, deep in the heart of Texas. A chance to do that 3 times in less than a week. Awesome. awesome. But besides that bit of awesomeness, folks, the Saturday night main event pay-per-view would kick off with none other than Nia Jax going one-on-one against Rhea Ripley for the Women's World Championship. Now, before Lillian Garcia could get that LL Cool J old school microphone warmed up with the introductions for the championship match, Nia Jax would take liberties and decide to punch Rhea right in the face, catching her off guard. And while she was still trying to recover, ref rung the bell. And how would Rhea respond, folks? Well, not only with a drop kick that would ring the bell of Nia, but also a tilt-a-whirl DDT and a cannonball on the outside of the ring for Nia Jax to respond back with not only an avalanche Samoan drop for a near fall, and even a leg drop from Brett's Rope. A little shout out to OSW Review because we're mentioning a classic pay-per-view. Still for a near fall. Rhea would come back with a cold red prior to that leg drop for a near fall off a counter of a modified version of a last ride powerbomb, but really didn't connect. But ultimately, this match would come to an emphatic end, and I got a feeling Nia Jax might regret this in the future after she would pull off the Annihilator and would take way too long to get to the second one, would then suffer the wrath of an electric chair, a headbutt, and even a riptide for Rhea Bloody Ripley to still be your women's champion via pinfall. Which means Nia is going to be entering in the Royal Rumble while Rhea tries to figure out if she can survive what other horrifying pay-per-view with a giant oversized metal cage she's gonna most likely have to fight in to find out if she's gonna make it to Mania. Because I got a feeling they're gonna make her defend that inside the chamber. Just saying. And as Nia Jax lost it at ringside, we would get a chance to see not only Alundra Blaze, but also none other than the $1 Million Man, Ted DiBiase, and Mark Henry. Nice! But besides paying attention to the legends of yesteryear, folks, the next match that we would have up would see none other than Sheamus going one-on-one against Braun Breaker for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, before this match could take place, Jesse the Body Ventura would join none other than Pat McAfee and Michael Cole on commentary, and it would be pretty interesting. Because not only we would get a chance to see Sheamus doing a shock put to Braun Breaker into the Timekeeper's area and a flying clothesline that led to only a 1 count, but on the outside of the ring, and I think we've seen one of the hardest spears to date from Braun Breaker delivered to Sheamus, nearly taking him out. But if that didn't work, the 2 gut checks, well, according to Colin Maestro, still led to a near fall. Sheamus coming back with a kneecapper, near fall. 16 beats out of the 10 usual beats of the Baldrin, leading into a Celtic Cross, still for a near fall. The Gorilla Press Slam that won Braun Breaker many of NXT championships didn't get the job done here, still a near fall. But ultimately, this match would come to an emphatic end after Sheamus would hit a bro kick that would unfortunately lead to a 2 count that the ref didn't see, according to Jesse the Body Ventura, that would still be a near fall, thanks to the ring awareness of Braun Breaker. And if you're wondering at home, how did that lead to the end of the match? Well, Sheamus would try to go for a bro kick again, but unfortunately he would get countered directly into a spear for Braun Breaker to win this match via pinfall. And for Jesse Ventura to spit out more conspiracy theories, reminding me of the show he used to host, a part of Prime TV or AMC. I keep on forgetting which network it was on, but either way you look at it, that's what it reminded me of. Then immediately after that, folks, we would see Shawn Michaels back home in San Antonio, Texas, to get the contract signed for the ladder match that'll take place at the Royal Rumble in less than a week's time. And he would assure this contract would get signed. For Cody Rhodes to sign the contract after Shawn Michaels would ask him please to sign the contract. For Kevin Owens to say, for somebody who said I'm afraid and a coward to pull a trigger, I cared about our friendship and didn't do what I was supposed to do in Bash in Berlin, but I'm not going to make that same mistake twice. And would say that when things got tough, you left, only for Cody to say, enough is enough is enough. I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about who I'm going to be fighting at WrestleMania for the title, so sign the contract. Only for Kevin Owens to say that you should be worried about me because at the Royal Rumble, I'm going to shut everyone up who says I'm not the champion, and everything you've got, the pyro, all the fanfare, and the respect is all going to come to me. And that's what I'm going to take away from you. For Shawn Michaels to butt in and say that, dude, you sound like you're jealous. Only for him to unload on freaking Shawn Michaels, telling him, weren't you the same person who decided when things got tough to quit too? And on top of that, you're jealous because I'm making this championship more prestigious than you've ever had. And then once he was able to finally sign the contract after a little back and forth, and I knew it was coming, but I didn't know when, after he would shake hands with Shawn Michaels and Cody Rhodes because Kevin Owens refused to do so, most likely because still a little mad about the Montreal Screwjob, would decide to pull off a cheap shot right directly to Cody Rhodes and then would try to take out Shawn Michaels, for Cody to come from out of nowhere with a super kick, and then for Shawn Michaels to put some stank on it because he wouldn't go down, and hit him with a sweet chin music, taking him out of the ring, for Kevin Owens to be reeling on the outside, and for Cody Rhodes to celebrate what he did with the help of the Heartbreak Kid. Sort of rhymes. And after that little back and forth for a contract signing that usually goes wrong, and I'm surprised they weren't prepared for it, we would go into our next match, which would see none other than the Quilted Quicker Picker Upper Braun Strowman going one-on-one against the Samoan Werewolf, Jacob Fatu. Now, as Jacob Fatu was going to make his way down to the ring, we would hear Michael Cole bringing up the history of Jacob Fatu, saying that he did 3 stints in jail before he was the age of 21 and decided to join the family business of wrestling. And the reason why is because when he did it on the streets, it was illegal. He does it in the ring, it's all legal. And to prove how much of a savage this man is, folks, as Braun Strowman would take out and Carl the Maestro is still amazed by this. 2 trips on the Strowman Express did not take out the Samoan Werewolf. And on the 3rd trip, we would see him pick up Braun Strowman and hit him with a Samoan drop on the announce table, multiple amount of headbutts, and then would take things back inside the ring and pull off 6 separate bulldozer-like smashes, or hip attacks as some people may call it, only for the ref to try to interfere before the 7th for him to get thrown out of the ring for another one to strike, and for the referee to rule this match a disqualification in favor of none other than Braun Strowman. But Braun Strowman didn't look like a winner, because next up, after hearing that he won that match, he would go to the top rope with a spring step-up moonsault, then would do another one, and when the fans asked for another one as he was making his way out, he would walk back inside the ring and hit him with yet another, leaving Braun Strowman a bloody mess, and at the same time, just mangling him in the worst way known possible, and doing something that only, I do believe, Brock Lesnar was only able to do, which is horrifying to see on tape. But after the monster among monsters was disposed of by a werewolf, we would finally head into our main event of the evening. which would see none other than Jey Uso going one-on-one against Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. And during this said contest, as action would go back and forth and Gunther, underestimating his opponent, would find out real quick that Jey Uso has earned his main event stripes, because despite him getting hit with a nasty multitude of moves, including a T-Rex drop kick and a power bomb, it would be a near fall. Jey would come back with a super kick, still a near fall. Liger bomb, near fall. Spear, near fall. And even would go for a super kick, spear, and Uso splash combination, still a near fall for main event Jey Uso. But ultimately, this match would come to an emphatic end once the ring general would get back to his feet to deliver not one, but two debilitating power bombs for the ring general to still reign supreme and still be your world champion via pinfall. Yikes. And with Gunther having a look on his face of, what the hell did I just got myself into, as Saturday night's main event would draw to a close for now. And join us next time on pay-per-view, folks, where we go into your homes right around the beginning of February, and most likely for this show of madness somewhere 2 or 3 days afterwards, for a pay-per-view we like to call the Royal Rumble. From Indianapolis, Indiana, kicking off the road to the granddaddy of them all of WrestleMania. And I guess with the road being paved right now, according to Colin Maestro, I think it's time for us to head back to that music. And when we return, we'll be back with more madness than you could shake a stick at, as Under the Radar rolls on right after this. So don't get lost in that madness just yet, folks. And stay tuned. Right, all you listeners of the madness, welcome back to Under the Radar. And before we go any further into the show, folks, there was a message on Twitter I saw last night from someone named Bunhards, who was a little down in the dumps about the fact of getting away from her storyboarding job as a cartoonist. And it made me think about me going away from the microphone for well over 6 years, only to come back after having to try something else before going back to what I love. So to her, don't give up, and trust me, no matter how long you're away from it, you can always come back to it better and stronger than ever, because I believe you're destined for great things. Don't ever forget that. Don't ever forget that. But besides giving someone a pep talk and a message, hopefully of hope to help them go on to the next step to come back to great things, I think it's time for us to take out our left-handed scissors to cut out some very interesting newspaper clippings from this past week and beyond for another edition of yesterday's news. And in our first yesterday's news story, and in news for you My Hero Ultra Rumble fans out there, not only did they announce a brand new Hero and Pro license system that will give you well over, and according to Colin the Maestro, well over 750 tickets now compared to the original 150 you used to get, but also a bonus of well over 14,000 hero crystals, well over 61,000 gold, amongst other cool things added to the list too. But the only downside is that it will cost you well over 13,000 hero crystals for the said reward. But at the same time, I think it's really worth it. I really do. And oh, for the new hero to start off season 9 would be none other. And I know I'm gonna butcher the daylights out of the name of this character, but Kurogogi or Kuroguri? Let's just say the guy who can create teleporters, a part of My Hero, and yeah, very dangerous character that can actually teleport someone from one place to the next and is very helpful. And I got a feeling teamed up with Hawks and probably the girl with the gravity powers, they are going to be a very dangerous team on the field. And alongside with that, and Carla the Maestro told me not to forget to mention the fact that you are now able to go to Chaos City, a part of one of the new maps featured for My Hero Ultra Rumble as well. And for those who happen to join ranked battles this upcoming week, you can get a chance to get a very special outfit to commemorate the said 100 million copies for this said ranked battle. Nice! And if you guys want to go ahead and check out all of the other goodies still coming down the tubes from the world of My Hero Ultra Rumble, then you can go ahead and head on over to the said Twitter page of one man only known as My Hero Ultra Rumble to check it out for yourselves. And as a bit of a heads up, you have only until March 25th to try to get that outfit from playing ranked matches. So go for it. And in other yesterday's news, and in news from the world of wrestling horror, it looks like Chris Jericho would be able to be a part of a very special horror film called Dark Match. And after checking out the trailer for it, I got a feeling it's gonna be very interesting, seeing the fact that it's a wrestling show that gets hosted in a place filled with satanics. Yeah, very interesting indeed. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out the cool trailer for this said film that will be a part of Shudder, then you can go ahead and head on over to the Twitter page of one man only known as Shudder to check it out for yourselves. And wait a minute, I'm pretty sure I saw during the trailer the guy from Grand Theft Auto who played Trevor is featured during it as well too. Huh, really starting to get into a lot of horror movies now, isn't he? Oh, before we get off track, folks, this movie will be available on Shudder as of Friday, January 31st of 2025. And in other news of the yesterday variety and more or less covered music news or what if news. For a few fans out there who always wondered how Numb would sound if it was written by Audioslave, well, I have some good news for you. Because we would see none other than Matt Glocky answering your questions by doing a what if song if Audioslave wrote Numb by Linkin Park. And how would it sound? Absolutely awesome. But the fact that he would say in the comments that he almost passed out while trying to sing this song, yeah, it tells you how crazy the vocal style of Chris Parnell really was, a part of Audioslave, and of course, of none other than Temple of the Dog and the other bands he was a part of. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out the cool cover or what if scenario if Audioslave wrote Numb by Linkin Park, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one man only known as Matt Glocky to check it out for yourselves. And in other news, and more or less haunted house news, and according to Carla the Maestro rolling his eyes just like Carrion did, it looks like on the final stop for their road trip, they would head on over to the infamous Clown Motel in Tonopah, Nevada. And yeah, Cross was not too happy with this one, especially seeing the fact that he said we're playing with very dangerous elements here, but at the same time decided to join alongside with him, thinking that it would get out of their systems. And as a bit of a spoiler, no it didn't. No it did not at all. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out the funny yet scary experience that they would experience inside of that said clown motel, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one or two girls, only known as Scarlett and Shotzi, to check it out for yourselves. And in other yesterday's news, and more or less Crypt TV short news, for you fans out there who always wanted to see a beautiful new killer routine, well, I had some good news for you. Because this week they would decide to have a show called Glam to Grim, and episode 1 would feature beauty. And for some strange reason, I really thought that Glamorella was gonna show up for this one, but according to Colin the Maestro, nowhere in sight. But at the same time, it would feature someone trying to threaten somebody with a ball bean hammer, and that's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. You're gonna have to see the rest for yourselves. I don't want to spoil it. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out how in the world they got to the point with the ball bean hammer in the first place, then you can go ahead and head on over to the YouTube page of one man only known as Crypt TV to check it out for yourselves. And I can't wait to see what next week's beauty tip is going to be, or if it's going to be something other than beauty. For some strange reason, I got a feeling it's going to involve some form of beast. Well, Carl and the Maestro said no. The beast is already there in the programming. It might have something to do with fame. Yeah. You know, I think that's what it might be. But I'm just taking a shot in the dark, and hopefully nobody else does during that short. And in other yesterday's news, and more or less news from the world of Up, Up, Down, Down. With Tyler Breeze still in the lead with 1 week left before WrestleMania, will we see Austin Creed finally getting back in control of the fans and finally being able to beat Breeze once again in My GM? Well, according to Carl and the Maestro, maybe. It all depends on how Raw goes that next upcoming week. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out how in the world Tyler Breeze is going to fare against Xavier Woods before their big WrestleMania showdown next week, then you can go ahead and check it out on the YouTube page of one man only known as Up, Up, Down, Down to check it out for yourselves. I guess with that said, folks, wraps it up for a very special big-time Monday edition of yesterday's news. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back to that music once again, and when we return, we take a trip straight directly into the Indy Zone. And according to Colin the Maestro, we go to the Twitterverse before the Indy Zone, so we'll head there first, and then we'll head over to the Indy Zone right after these words from our sponsors and music. So don't go away just yet, folks, and stay tuned. And we're back with the show of madness that is helping you get over your Monday blues while trying to steer back on course ourselves, only known as Under the Radar. And according to Carl and the Maestro, we almost went to the Indy Zone before we could grab a couple of the screenshots from the Twitterverse. And yeah, that's on me. I forgot. We completely forgot. We had this Rod Sterling suit on and immediately thought we were heading toward the Indy Zone, but Carl and the Maestro said, hold on. We need to go to get those screenshots from the Twitterverse. So without any further ado, folks, and with Carl and the Maestro laughing over in the corner trying to adjust their Rod Sterling suits as well, too, I think it's time for us to go ahead and check out those screenshots and whatnots from the Twitterverse from this past weekend and beyond for another edition of the Four Squared Delight. And the first screenshot that we have up comes from the Twitter page of J It's Poe with their said screenshot from the video game of Cook. And Cook spelled Kook. All right? And the screenshot that they were able to provide for this week would show them fighting a whole bunch of what appears to be zealots and monsters while the room was rotating in super slow motion, causing them to take out what appears to be a revolver shotgun of sorts to take them out one by one until the room finally stops spinning around them. Now, this would be a challenge from someone by the name of Morgan Glacier, who would tell them to try to come up with an Inception-style fight in a game. And yes, they answered the call with this said challenge. And seeing the fact that it does automatically remind me of Inception, but it also reminds me of Quake for some strange reason too. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this said game that this is actually featured in it, where the room is spinning around, even though Carl and Michael said they would get dizzy from it. But also maybe, just maybe, a chance for you to upgrade that said pistol revolver gun, cause I got a feeling it's gonna do a lot of damage. And Colin the Maestro said it's a revolver shotgun. So yes, it is going to do a lot of damage. Oh, good point. And the next screenshot that we have up comes from none other than Nuke Fist with their said screenshot from the video game of Geno Kids. And the screenshot that they provided for this week, literally and figuratively, shows them taking it to a bad guy by using not only a charged fist blast attack, but also using a makeshift sickle to take them out mid-flight to switch back to the guy to deliver a rocket punch, and then immediately delivered a charged sword attack that would send them into a double S rank for their said combination, for them to hit not only an uppercut and a thrust kick, to shoot some cool lasers along the way, and to even deliver a makeshift comet blast, sending them blasting back down toward the ground, for another enemy to show up to suffer the wrath of the sickle, only for the cameras to fade to black afterwards. Not bad. Not bad at all. And this screenshot automatically reminds me of a combination of not only Beautiful Joe, but with a little hint of, I would have to say Devil May Cry in there as well too. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this said game that not only you get a chance to pull off a tiger knee to take out your foes with those said rocket hands, but maybe, just maybe, a chance for you to slam the great sword toward the ground and pull off a shockwave attack to take out enemies as well too. You know, just in case you're fighting more than one like it was during this said screenshot. And according to Carl and the Maestro, not too entirely sure if you're going to have enough time to pull off the wave attack. Well, if you had enough time to charge up that sword to slap them in the face with it, yeah, I got a feeling you could pull it off. I really do. Might take a little practice, though. And the next screenshot that we have up, besides trying to practice using a long sword to take somebody out from a far distance, comes from the Twitter page of Sailing Fox with their said game of Shadow of Mammon. And the screenshot that they provided for this week shows our heroine as she would try to test out the recoil and locomotion of the said gun that she's using by not only taking a couple of shots into the air, shooting a couple of the doors, and trying to open up one of the doors with gunfire for the door to immediately close. And by the looks of it, looks like she's stuck in one room in the center. And I got a feeling that might lead to a monster attack. So this screenshot automatically reminds me of Dead Space, because that's the only game I know of that will purposely trap you into a room and leave you in a confined space where a whole bunch of enemies can come pouring in, leading you to be, screwed in some cases. Now, here's hoping in the near future for this game that not only you get a chance to upgrade your weapons, but maybe, just maybe, a chance for you to get some form of futuristic shotgun to take it to those creatures when you're stuck in that room. And why call it the Maestros? Because in video games, you could never go wrong with shotguns. That, and with the spread of the shotgun itself, when they come through that door, you'll be able to take out a lot of them with no problem. And, followed up with a couple of pistol shots, you should be fine. I hope. Depending on the size of the creatures that's coming through that door. But besides trying to come up with some form of artillery strategy for being stuck in small rooms, the next screenshot that we have up comes from the Twitter page of Trench Tales with their said screenshot from the video game of Trench Tales. And the screenshot that they provided for this week shows the customization options you can have for the different types of outfits you can wear in this game, including a cool helmet with a couple of leaves in it. Even, and Colin the Maestro told me, look at the size of that weird hat on the top of his head. And yes, I've noticed, along with the gas mask and that weird looking helmet that looks like one you would ride with a bike, the one with the spike on top, that pretty cool hat. Even a chance to change the jacket, the pants, as well as customize the weapons to the fullest. Which automatically reminds me of, I would say Killzone, but you can't really change the said costumes for them in Killzone, so I would have to say this reminds me of, I'm stuck on this one, and that's a first. I would have to say, you know what, I'm gonna stick with Killzone. And here's hoping in the near future for this set game that you get a chance to change the color of the jacket for this as well. And Carlin the Maestro said, why'd you stick with Killzone and not mention Resistance? All that was the game, because you can customize your character in that too. So here's hoping in the near future for this game that you can change the color of the jackets to go along with it as well too. Because I got a feeling you might need it. But then again, it might reveal the enemy location according to Carl and the Maestro, but still, I want it. Because that jacket, a little hit of red, black, and silver will look pretty cool. And Carl and the Maestro said it will also make you look like a member of the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Heart Club Band. Real funny. But besides that sideways comment by Carl and the Maestro, folks, the last but not least screenshot that we have up, besides turning the battlefield into Project Runway, comes from none other than Log Dev Dino with their said screenshot from the video game of Paleophage. And the screenshot that they provided for this week shows our hero or heroine in a very sticky situation, trying to fight off a whole bunch of raptors to the point where she would just say, screw it, take out a grenade launcher and take out all the dinosaurs along with herself for one to still be left alive roaring at the side of the screen. Now, this reminds me of a what-if scenario if they decided to remake Dino Crisis. That's exactly what this reminds me of. And here's hoping in the near future for this set game that you get options to a flamethrower. Because I got a feeling you're going to need it. You're definitely going to need some form of flamethrower to take out all those creatures. Because, come on, there was at least 8 raptors in that room gnawing at you. And a grenade launcher finish is not something that you should resort to when you're in those insurmountable odds. So here's hoping in the near future for a flamethrower to take it to those said dinos, that or an elephant rifle or something. And if you guys and gals out there want to go ahead and check out any other cool screenshots and whatnots from the Twitterverse from this past weekend and beyond for yourselves, then you can go ahead and head on over to the Twitter page of one man or several people only known as Octocurio, Oliver Snyders, Playing Indies, Indie Rhymes, Shot_Games, or even under the hashtag of Screenshot Saturday, or even Alpha Beta Gamer, according to Colin the Maestro, which I almost forgot. All right. And if you guys also want to go ahead and check out the screenshots that we like for this week and get a further interpretation of it for yourselves, then you can head on over to our Twitter page, only known as the WOH0012, where Carl and the Maestro decided to make a screenshot folder called Saturday Night Screenshot Fighting. And they thought they were going to be here Saturday for the show, hence the reason why they called it that. Because I guess Saturday night's all right for screenshots and fighting. Okay, I'll mention that in the near future. Maybe. And I guess with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to head back to that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with another trip directly into the Indy Zone as Under the Radar rolls on right after this. So don't switch that dial away from the madness just yet, folks, and stay tuned. All right, all you listeners of the madness and indie game lovers alike out there, welcome back to Under the Radar. And this week's Screenshots of the Week goes to none other than Nuke Fist with their screenshot from the video game of Geno Kids. And also goes to Long Dev Dino with their said game of Paleophage. Now, the reason why in the world these two games made it in for the Screenshot of the Week for this week, well, for the first one, anytime you get a chance to get 4 people to help you out, they strike that according to Carl and the Maestro, 5 people to help you out in open combat with lightning fast attacks, including a chance for you to actually comet punch them to the earth, is always a fun thing. And the reason for the second one, well, anytime you get a chance to fight a multitude of dinosaurs in a confined space, it's always a fun time and something that is considered to most as out of this world fun. And speaking of out of this world fun, folks, I think it's time for us to go ahead and tighten the ties once again on our Rod Sterling Stoots as we open up that door to the 5th dimension of games to take a very special week-starting trip directly to the Indy Zone. And look, Carl and Maestro, right over here next to that traffic light, there's some games coming in hot. Wait, we gotta wait for the light to change. Oh, now they're coming in hot. Let's go grab them. And the first game that we have up comes from the developers Bad Bones with their said game of Verge World. And this game will be coming soon to the Steam machine near you, but until then, there's currently a demo for it right now as we speak. So make sure you check it out. Next game we have up after that comes from the developers Pixel Split and Pixel Split Simulations with their said game of Indoor Lands, which for some strange reason reminds me of Theme Park World. Yeah, it really does. But this game currently available for the low price of $18.99, and for those who want the Indie Pixel Split bundle, then you can head on over and check it out for well over the low price of $32.77. It almost got thrown through a loop there, just like that carnival ride I saw in the picture. But according to Call of the Maestro, the indie deal is called Indylicious. And they were trying to get me to say it, and no. Outside of that one time, no. Anyway, next game that we have up comes from the developers Morticia, or Matashka? We'll go with the second one just in case with their said game of Blackfoot. And this game currently available for the low price of $24.99. Not bad. Next game after that comes from the developers Red Black Spade with their said game of Cat Maze. And this game currently available for the low price of $9.99, but will be well over $14 if you want the soundtrack included. which got pretty cool tunes in it. Recommend you take the try for it. And the next game we have up after that comes from the developers Cold Wild Games with their said game of Luna Fishing Garden. And this game currently available for the low price of $7.99. But for those out there who wants to get the Garden Fishing Spa Bundle, you can get it for as low as $31.40. Next game we have up after that comes from the developers Justus. Apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, we were right with the third one with their said game of Looking for Aliens. And this game currently available for the low price of $7.99. And for those out there who wants to try out the Hidden Objects Bundle, you can get it for as low as $42.61. Next game after that comes from the developers Sigono Inc. with their said game of Opus Echo of Star Song Full Bloom Edition. And this game currently available for the low price of $12.49. But for those who wants the deluxe edition, you can get it for as low as $52.21. Not bad. Next game after that comes from the developers of Slavic Magic, nice name by the way, with their said game of Manor Lords. And this game currently available for the low price of $27.99. And according to Carl and the Maestro, and looked at the price tag of this one, but still said to mention it, for any of you out there who wants the Hooded Horse City Builder Bundle, you can get it for as low as $99.96. But do you think that's good? You can get well over 14 items for the Hooded Horse Publisher Bundle for well over $184, which is 60% off of its original price, which is well over $400. Yikes! And after that sticker shike, folks, the next game that we have up comes from Shirakomo Games with their said game of Canderia. And this game currently available for the low price of $19.99. But for those who wants the Swiss Metroidvanias bundle, you can get it for as low as $32.38. Not bad. Next game we have up after that comes from the developers Valka Labs with their said game of Relapse. And this game currently available for the low price of $3.99. But for those out there who wants to try the demo, you can try it before you buy it. Next game we have up after that comes from the developers Fantasize Games with their said game of Beautiful Mystic Survivors. And this game currently available for a low price of $4.99. But for those who wants the Mango Council Roguelite Bundle, you can get it for as low as $14.38. Next game after that comes from the developers Lauren Lemec with their said game of Terror of the Hemisaurus. And this game currently available for a low price of $12.99. But if you want the Games by Lauren bundle, you can get it for as low as $25.47. Not bad. Not bad at all. Next game after that comes from the developers Dragon Emperors and Great Conspiracy Games with their said game of Last One Behind the Choice. And this game currently available for a low price of $4.99. But for those who wants to try it before you buy it, yep, there's a demo for it currently. Next game after that comes from the developers Missing Sentinel Software with their said game of Yoko Redux Dreams of a Blue Planet. And this game currently available for low price of $9.99. Next game we have up, folks, comes from the developers Fireline Games with their said game of Fueled Up. And this game currently available for the low price of $19.99. But for those who wants to try out the demo before you buy it, currently available. Next game we have up after that comes from the developers Fuzz Games with their said game of Restless Soul. And this game currently available for the low price of $14.99. And the last but not least game that we have up for this week, according to Carl and the Maestro, comes from the developers Red Black Spade with their said game of Fearmonium. Nice name for the game. And this game currently available for the low price of $12.99. But wait, Carl and the Maestro, I found one more game, which comes from the developers of Storm Mind Games with their said game of Batora Lost Haven. And this game currently available for the low price of $4.99. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out any other cool games that are still making their way through that fifth dimension door as we speak, then you can go ahead and head on over to the store.steampower page of one man only known as store.steampower.com and just look up that Beyond Indie Showcase to check out a whole bunch of cool games that are just out of this world. I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back to that music once again. And when we return, we'll be back with another back-breaking, spine-tingling edition of the Wild World of Stunts as Under the Radar rolls on right after this. So don't get lost in the madness just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Alright, all you risk takers and backbreakers out there, welcome back to Under the Radar. And now it's time for us to find out which one of you crazy stunners is gonna hurt your way directly onto a Wheaties box with a tiger on it as we get ready to leap into another edition of the Wild World of Stunts. And the first stunt that we have up comes from the femme fatale of the skies themselves, Vinewood on Fire with their said stunt of flying supercars. And during this said stunt, while the Stunt Academy comes back from winter break, they decided to break the break up by flying through the air on a special made ramp out of turbo ramps. Now, if you're wondering what a turbo ramp is, folks, it's a giant oversized ramp strip that allows you to fly further, faster, and apparently more dangerous than you've ever flown before. And Vinewood on Fire would prove that point by flying up this ramp using an Xfinity car. And while doing so, I got a feeling she would go full Buzz Lightyear by going to infinity and beyond by not only flying through the sky but hitting another car for another student who we'll call Max at the moment. After he would get hit, it would do a 180 spin of a barrel roll in the air and would finish things off with a gyroscope in stereo before both of them would land on the ground right on that said ramp while pulling off a Pete Townsend power slide. for them to land on all four wheels like what Carl and the Maestro like and love. Now that stunt, according to Carl and the Maestro and the PR department, could have turned very tragic if they didn't hit in mid-flight. And how's that? Apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro and the PR department, if they didn't strike each other in mid-flight, they would have missed that ramp by a good 30 feet and would have fell down to the city streets below. So this would be a happy accident. Probably the only one we've experienced here on the Wild World of Stunts. Oh yeah, and they're giving this stunt a 10 too. And the next stunt that we have up comes from the stunner known as Holmes' True Love Bike. Interesting name, by the way, with their said stunt of GTA 5 monster truck wheelies. And I said wheelies when I got a feeling it was wheelies. And the reason why I said wheelies, folks, is because this guy, we'll call him Holmes for short, decided to take his monster truck onto the highway road, not on a Sunday, but on a Monday, during rush hour traffic to truly feel the rush as he tries to pull off this said wheelie. Now, granted, before doing this, he did smoke one of those redwood cigarettes and would decide to pop that wheelie on the said highway and was on two wheels in a 4-lane highway road. Now, granted, pedestrians and other drivers seeing this would say, what the and I can't say the rest of it because we're on radio, but at the same time would also look onward and try to steer out of the way of it like if it was an emergency vehicle. But in their defense, this would be considered as an emergency because even though he had control of this said monster truck while it wheelied through the skies, at the same time, he almost hit the bridge. He was just about maybe 6 inches away from scraping the top of that bridge, and calling the Maestro who would zoom in and see it. Yeah, I'm right. And they're giving this stunt a 10 with a bridge on top of it. I can see why. And the next stunt that we have up comes from none other than Luz Lagoon with their said screenshot or stunt for the video game of Luz Lagoon. Now, originally, folks, we were going to mention this a part of the Foursquare Delight. But after Carl and the Maestro brought to my attention that this crazy pilot would decide to go autopilot into the form of danger and would pull off a barrel roll and fly directly into a tornado and would come out clean the other side with no problem whatsoever, makes me really wonder if she really is the pilot from Tailspin. Because there's only one person I know who can make it out of a tornado alive like that, and that's him. But at the same time, Carl and the Maestro said, what about the SWAT cast? You got a point. But either way you look at it, this time, I'm going to give this stunt a 10. And apparently Carl and the Maestro and the PR department with a giant fan and a whirlwind funnel thing on it at the end would take my 10 away and they would raise it high in the air. Resembling a tornado, I don't know how it works, but it almost took my headphones off. So yeah, knock it off. And speaking of knocking things off their blocks, folks, the next stunt that we have up comes from Bite Parrot with their said stunt for the video game of Slope Crashers. And Carl and the Maestro said that was perfect timing, but I got a feeling for this stunt, it wasn't so much perfect timing. No, it wasn't. Because our capybara friend with that chef hat would try to cook up a good old-fashioned barrel roll dinner, but unfortunately halfway through the course of cooking it, forgot completely the main ingredient of this said stunt is gravity. And with gravity not on your side, it tends to spoil the dish, and that's exactly what happened here. Because as he was going over for the barrel roll, he would realize that he would be so close to the ground that he would be able to kiss it. And after he would kiss the said snow, he would then turn into a snow cheerleader by pulling off cartwheels into the snow, landing head and foot first while rolling down the said mountain, almost turning into a snowball like in the Looney Tunes cartoon. Now, Doc, is the capybara all right? Now, the doc over in the corner said he can't answer that question, but he has a vet over in the corner that he's asking him that question, and the vet told me, no, he's not. Not only is he suffering from a bruised nose, but also a bruised spinal cord and a broken leg. Yeah, I knew that thing was bent when he flew off that board. Doc, you might as well add a broken arm to the mix, too, or a broken paw, because the paw looked broke, too, because it started to go another way like an open car door. Yeah, that was bad. That was bad. And the last but not least stunt that we have up for this week comes from none other than Murray Hyde with their said stunt for the video game of, and according to Carl and the Maestro, shrugging their shoulders, a work in progress. And the screenshot, or should I say stunt, that we were provided with for this week shows our inline skater going outside the box with a couple of cool stunts. Not only being able to pull off a triple front flip and a 360 spin on the top of a street light, but would also be able to go back through the neighborhood, pull off a samurai shogun front flip, 50-50 grind on the side of a wall to collect the tape, make their way up a pair of stairs, pull off a classic 50-50 grind on the said stairs, and at the same time would finish things off with a very classic, and according to Carl and the Maestro, front flip for style. Originally I thought it was going to be a moonsault, but he switched it up on me. Not bad. Not bad at all. But to make things crazier about that whole stunt, folks, the fact that he was doing this all without a helmet. How in the world are you able to pull off these stunts without a helmet? I keep saying it for years. Maybe you'll be able to save the brain cells you got in your head if you're able to wear a helmet while doing these stunts, especially inline skating in the city. But luckily for him, he waited until there was no traffic to pull off this stunt. But how? According to what Carl and the Maestro told me, the city that he was in, there was plenty of traffic to be experienced around there. And apparently, according to the PR department and Carl and the Maestro, they, tipped the cops off to cut off the street so he can successfully pull off the stunt. Hey, we're not supposed to interfere in any of these stunts, but I'll let you pass this time since you don't know the rules. And with Carl and the Maestro giving his stunt a perfect 10, folks, if you guys want to go ahead and check out any other crazy stunts of people getting themselves maimed for unnecessary fame, then you can head on over to the socialclub.rockstargames page, only known as socialclub.rockstargames.com, and click ever so lightly on that video button to check out which one of these crazy stunners is going to be dreaming of a successful stunt only to wake up inside of a hospital, or most likely in intensive care depending on their insurance. And I guess with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to head back to that music once again as we go grab a glass of water. And when we return, we'll be back with another edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Week right after this. So don't get lost in that madness just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Right, all you graveyard shift racers out there tonight, welcome back to Under the Radar. And this week's Stunts of the Week goes to none other than Luz Lagoon with their said stunt of Luz Lagoon. And also goes to the Femme Fatales of the Sky themselves, Vinewood on Fire with their said stunt of Flying Supercars. And even goes to none other than Home's True Love Bike with their said stunt of GTA 5 Monster Truck Wheelies. Now, the reason why in the world these three stunts made it in for the Stunt of the Week for this week, well, for the first one, if you're crazy enough to fly into a tornado just to be a part of the wild world of stunts, then we gotta mention you as the Stunt of the Week. It's mandatory. Well, if you live and we mention it. Not mandatory if you don't live afterwards, because we can't mention that. And the reason why in the world we mentioned the second stunt, well, anybody crazy enough to fly in the air well over 5,000 feet, nearly missed but hit each other just to make it to the other side of a ramp, definitely deserve to be mentioned during this part of the show as well, too. And the reason why in the world the last stunt made it in, well, anybody crazy enough to wheelie on open highway roads during rush hour traffic just to get through traffic like Busta Rhymes in a Mountain Dew commercial definitely deserve to be mentioned during this part of the show too, and proves that you really gotta do what you have to do to get through the city. And with those crazy stunts out of the way, folks, for the final time for the 9.0 series, it's now time for us to get ready to rev our engines and see which one of these 5 tracks is going to possibly make it to the next step of the Indy Awards by the end of this week, as we go into a very special Year of the Fisting edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Week. And the first track that we have up comes from none other than Moe. Or Moe? We'll go with the second one just in case with their said track of Long Stunt Race number 215. So there's 214 others besides this one. But the reason why we picked this one, folks, not only because it lives up to its name of being a long stunt race with well over 32.61 kilometers filled with crazy stunts and a long distance track, but also because of the fact that he was able to include every car across the board with the exception of those weaponized vehicles you know and love so much. Now, the only tip of advice we have for you race fans out there is this. Make sure you pick a car that can handle this course. That's the only tip we got for you. And for those out there crazy enough to pick motorcycles for this said race, yeah, make sure you land evenly on both wheels, because if you don't, there's a high possibility that you will wipe out like if you're surfing. And yeah, it will cost you during this said race. So make sure you pick the right car for the job, and you should see the pole position at the end of that very long race you're going to be racing in. And the next track that we have up comes from the stunner and track creator known as Fran the Man 87, thank you for the correction, Carl and the Maestro, with their said track of Piper Izzy Waterfall GP. And the reason why in the world we decided to pick this track, folks, well, for starters, the fact that they were able to make an old school racetrack out of a waterfall is pretty impressive. Not only that, but a cool view of the waterfall during the race is pretty cool too. Now, the only tip of advice we have for you race fans out there for this said track is to watch out for the hairpin turn prior to the waterfall, which would be checkpoint 8. And even a little hint of checkpoint number 13 in there as well, too, with checkpoint 5, according to Carl and the Maestro, because if you don't, there's a high possibility of you slipping off this road, which will cost you during this said race. So yeah, take it easy on those turns, or get a car with good handling or drift skills, and you should be fine. And the next track that we have up comes from the creator RC West with their said track of Vinewood Sign Race. And the reason why in the world we decided to pick this track, folks, not only because it gives you a chance to pick a litany list of cars across the board with the exception of those weaponized vehicles you know and love so much, and vans, according to Carl and the Maestro, but also because of the cool layout he has for the track as well, too, that may or may not involve a couple of jumps over buildings, just saying. And with that being said, the only tip of advice we have for you race fans out there for this said track, make sure you pick a car that can handle jumps. Enough said, because if you don't, there's a high possibility you might get stuck on one, which will cost you during this said race, or lead to a DNF, which you really don't want. And The next track that we have up comes from none other than the Dane with their said track of 5150 Vice City 500. And the reason why in the world we decided to pick this track, folks, well, besides reminding me of the old times back in Vice City during the Hyman Arena track races that I would be racing in with the Hot Ring Sabre, which is featured for this said track. It also reminds me, strangely enough, of all those cool 80 tunes during it as well, too. So, the only tip of advice we have for you race fans out there for this said track is to be careful. Seriously, be careful during the said track during the hairpin turns, and hopefully, and I'll say it again, hopefully, you get a chance to actually make it around the whole track without crashing. Because there's a high possibility of that happening. Really is. And the last but certainly not least track that we have up for this week that will hopefully wrap up this 9.0 series, leading us directly into the Indy Awards, hopefully before the end of this week, comes from none other than IG Stunner with their said track of the 19-mile super race. And this track, the reason why in the world we decided to pick this, according to Carl and the Maestro, Hot Wheels track from hell. And there's a good reason for it too, because not only it involves loops, spirals, jumps, and a whole bunch of tube-like moments, it also involves a part of the race where you have to speed through those tubes too. Now, the only tip of advice I have for you race fans out there for a track that's 30 kilometers out and with every car across the board, with the exception of those weaponized vehicles you know and love so much, is to seriously pick the right car for the job. Because if you don't, well, let's just say there's a high possibility of you most likely losing this said race due to the fact of your car not being able to handle certain sections of the race, which will be crucial to remember. And oh, before I forget, do not reset on certain parts of this race, because if you do, let's just say it's a long way back. So don't give up. Please don't give up. And if you guys want to go ahead and check out any of these cool tracks plus other tracks we decided to include in playlist form just prior to nominees being listed for the Indy Awards, then you can go ahead and head on over to the socialclub.rockstargames page, only known as socialclub.rockstargames.com, and look up the playlist entitled Jump Fest 1 to check out all these cool tracks for yourselves. I guess with that said, for the 9.0 series for now, folks, wraps it up for another edition of the GTA Online Top 5 Tracks of the Week. And I guess with that said, I think it's time for us to head back into that music one more time. And when we return, we'll be back with the final segment for Under the Radar for this week, right after this. So don't hit that button away from the madness just yet, folks, and stay tuned. Well, all you listeners of the madness, seeing the fact that the infomercials are starting to flicker on and off your television sets, and it's time for us to get out of here before that truly happens, we might as well bring control of the television sets back to you, the listeners of the madness at home, as we bring Under the Radar for this week to an emphatic close. But don't worry, if you miss any of the madness we were able to give you to kick off your work week, don't worry, we got you covered, because you can catch this show again one more time, all the time, on our SoundCloud, Facebook, or even Tumblr pages and Instagram pages, still all named the same, only known as Music Village Radio, under the hashtag Under the Radar 478. And apparently, according to Carl and the Maestro, that's how much madness we were able to bring this week. What, 478 pounds worth? Apparently, that's how it's measured. I thought it was always measured in frequencies, not pounds. Well, I learned something new today. And if you guys and gals want to go ahead and find out other crazy and zany things we still got prepared for the remaining days of this year to Fist, heading directly into the 28 days of greatness, like a show that can bring apparently 478 foot-pounds of madness into your very homes, then you can go ahead and check it out on our YouTube, Discord, and Twitter pages, still all named the same, only known as the Double Agent 0012. Before we head out for the night, we would like to thank, as always, you, the listeners of the madness out there, for listening in to a very special Monday Madness Return edition of Under the Radar. And you know, on a complete side note, I just realized this is the first Monday we're able to bring madness into your homes for the year. Not bad. And if you like what you heard, go out there and spread the word. You know what? Like Orochimaru in the Clash of Ninja series for Naruto, when he's doing his finisher. Yeah, you know, the PR department knows where I'm going with this one and says, you're mentioning that because it's the year of the snake, aren't you? It's the year of the snake already? Really? I thought that was in February. Okay, we need to talk about that later, but yeah, I can see the reason now why they're wearing the Orochimaru outfit. Nice, looks good on you. And we would also like to thank you, the independent artists out there, for doing that musical goodness like you always do. And keep up the great work, guys, and here's hoping your music gets featured during an animated fighting show in the near future. And why? Because it'll set the mood for a good fight, and at the same time, we believe in you guys. That's why. That's why. And speaking of people's music we believe in that'll set a mood for a fight, we would like to thank our musical guest for this week, none other than Carl and the Maestro, with their said song of heavy static radio interference that was featured during the intro for this week's edition of the show. And of course, for the song you're listening to in the background now of the movie Metal Director's Cut, that was featured during the outro as we speak for this week's edition of Under the Radar. Like always, Carl and the Maestro, keep up the great work, and we can't wait to hear what you got coming down the tubes next. And finally, last but certainly not least, we would like to thank you, the independent gamers out there, for doing all those sweet, sweet video game hits, clips, tracks, and stunts that we had a chance to mention during this week's show. And to all you track, stunt, and gamers out there, good luck, and here's hoping you make it to the next step for the Indie Awards by next month. We're rooting for you. And for you crazy stunners out there, we managed to get you this cool-looking helmet that Carl and the Maestro surprised me with that has a giant snake on it, which will make you look like you're either something from Egypt or something from the Mummy. Take your pick. Either way, it should help you during your stunt. So, keep them coming, because you never know what show might be coming around the corner next. Hint, 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 hint. And I guess with everybody thanked, you guys out there know we go out. I'm DJ Smokey on behalf of Carl and the Maestro, and for this year of the Fist for this show, saying, fight Seal. But most importantly, when there's smoke, there's fire. And always remember, don't you ever forget, no matter what time of the day this show may air, during whatever sort of Monday we happen to return to the Rock the Bells for to help you get through the final week of this first month of the year with a kick, a punch, or maybe even a tiger knee to give it a good old-fashioned knockout just as the bell rings before the 12th round to help you win a championship belt that somehow was on the line as you get through this entire week. to keep flying low and stay under. The radar. Good night, everybody.